Thank you and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Equity and Student Achievement Committee of the Whole. This evening on March 28th, I'm going to open the meeting. And it doesn't look like we have any speakers. Okay. And I'd like to entertain a motion for the reviewing of the acceptance of the minutes.
So moved.
This is for the February 28th ESA meeting, moved by Commissioner Malloy.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Adams. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're going to jump right into presentations, but right before we do that, I do want to, so we're not jumping right into presentations. I just wanted to take a moment. You know, we had a gentleman who was here. We honored him. President Elliott, what was the gentleman's name, the teacher assistant? Mr. Cologne, who was here, and we just talked about, you know, our folks that serve in the school district that are not necessarily in the teaching role. They serve in other roles, and sometimes we fail to appreciate them properly. But I wanted to, some information came along. This gentleman, his name was Mario Colletts. And Mario Colletts served as a troubleshooter for the Rochester City School District for over 20 years before retiring in 2010. And the reason he's extremely special to me, and again, we say how folks play a role in students' lives. When I was running away from home, and Mario was one of the troubleshooters along with my father, Mario was one of the guys who, when they were out patrolling, would make sure or keep an eye out to see if he saw my father's little girl out there acting like she ain't had no sense. And so I just wanted to acknowledge him. He has passed away, and I just wanted to make sure that I share some reverence because, again, our professionals serve our district and our students in ways that sometimes we don't recognize. So with that said, I am going to move forward into the presentations for this evening, and we're going to start with summer learning, and I'll have you all come on up, introduce yourselves, and begin that presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners, President Elliott. I am happy to be here again for another year to share our plan for summer learning for the students of our CSD. And so summer 2023 is off to a great start. We started planning much earlier this year. So we are excited to share this with you. First thing I want to do is I have to acknowledge, so we had a vacant position for Director of Expanded Learning for a while, and I want to introduce Alicia Thomas, who is our new Director of Expanded Learning. Alicia is, she has been in the district serving students for 13 years, and I'll tell you, I was an administrator at a summer program many years ago, and that's where I met her, and I distinctly remember the moment we were both standing outside of the building ready to welcome students, and her energy and enthusiasm was inspiring, and so I'm so glad that she can be part of our team and bring that energy and enthusiasm to summer learning now for our students, so it's exciting. I also want to just take a minute to thank our OSI team, our Director of School Turnaround, Tellis Lott, TOA, Danielle DiCataldo, and our Secretary, Ashley Broughton. Truly, we have different things that we do within Office of School Innovation, but we do work as a tight-knit team, and I need to express my gratitude and thanks for all their support in the work that we do. So Summer of Discovery, we started this last year. We have 3 pillars for that all of our programs are based on: engage, connect, and accelerate. So as we speak about programs, we want to think about how we're engaging students, connecting with them, and accelerating, which is something I've been speaking about for a couple of years now, about how we flip that script from remediation to acceleration for students. Our vision for summer learning includes equitable access for all students to some kind of program. So if a student is interested in something for the summer, we want to make sure that there's access for them. So discover. So this is important. The other side of Office of School Innovation is really around school improvement planning and continuous improvement. So we ourselves are constantly in a continuous improvement cycle, reviewing data, qualitative, quantitative, to see how we can do better for students and families in the district. I want to talk about some of the lessons learned from last summer as we did our own school improvement, continuous improvement process. So one of the first things that we learned is that our collaboration with St. John Fisher University was a resounding success. Students enjoyed their time there. We're going to talk about some adjustments that we've made for this year in a few minutes. But that program specifically is thriving, and I think is going to make a big difference in students' lives. Our iReady data. So as we looked at iReady, comparing students who went to summer school and did not, summer learning I should say, and didn't, we were able to identify some specific programs that showed exceptional growth in certain areas. For example, a program at School 16, we saw an anomaly of growth in students for math that attended that program in their iReady. So we were able to go back to the people who ran that program, identify what strategies they were using, and then implement some of those into the programs that we're planning for this summer. Begin the contract process early. So we learned last year it was difficult to get some of our partners paid on time as our contract process was taking a little longer than we expected. So this year we got a jump. We're really trying to make sure that all of those pieces begin earlier this year. This is a big one, providing at least 18 hours of high quality professional learning for all staff. So we know that our programs can only be as good as the staff who are implementing them. So building leaders, teachers are all getting increased levels of professional learning before the start of summer program. And we have coaching, embedded coaching that's going to be happening during the programs as well. So not only are we working for students in the summer, but we're also working on working with our teachers to enhance their toolkits as well. And then finally, increasing the number of seats at centralized summer programs. So that iReady data, attendance data, qualitative data from surveys and interviews with students demonstrated that our students did not have equitable experiences across the summer programs. And we want to reduce that variability in experience for students in the summer. So what we've done is created more centralized programming. So we know exactly what's happening at the schools, and we know, and we can really track and identify what's working best. So this is just the numbers between last year and what's projected for this year. So we are projecting more seats. We definitely want to set our goals higher for high school students and credits earned. Our attendance, so last year was 62.74%. We're shooting for 80%, and we've made a lot of adjustments to how we're registering students, how early we're talking about our offerings, the outreach that we're doing, so that we really want to make sure that we hit that 80% attendance this year. The cost is about the same as projected right now. This number, 5.2 million, is all inclusive except for transportation. Transportation last year was just under $1 million. We expect that to stay about the same. We have less physical sites that buses are going to go to, but we are offering more field experiences for students. So field trips, getting out in the community, is going to be the basis of the elementary programming this year. ESY budget, that stays the same every year. That is a state grant, so that's just continuous. If this, we actually have, like, we've been talking with Sylvan Learning Centers about Regents Prep for students, and so this may go up a little bit based on that, how we're working with them right now. This is an overview of our centralized programs. So we have elementary, middle, and high school programming. This is just kind of an overview of dates and times. Now let me start with our Rock Explorers. So this is our elementary programming for students who are just finishing first grade up through just finishing fifth grade right now. We currently have 3 sites set, 1 in each zone. And we have a 4th site if needed. The Northeast zone has a larger amount of students. So if we need it in that zone, we have a fourth site ready to go. But the day is a full day program for students. It's going to be surrounded around expeditions. So expeditions, each week students in these programs are going to be taking a field study. The Harriet Tubman Museum in Auburn. We are going to be working with Rochester Ecology Partners to get into the environment and the ecology of the Rochester region. And we're going to engage with the Take It Down exhibit at the Rochester Museum and Science Center. And we have a Latinx unit. We have a unit on African diaspora that Dr. Goodwin will be leading. And all of these experiences are really about children understanding who they are and where they're from. We also will be using, you can see here an example of math and movement mat. So this is a kinesthetic way to teach mathematics. So students, get in their socks and they get on the mats and they have activities aligned that work with math fluency kinesthetically, which is a great way for students to remember those fluency facts. And then we also have Right Brain, which is a creative writing program where students author their own books. We get those books printed and they get 2 copies, one for themselves and one that they can donate to a library of their choice. So we have some exciting and different programs, and that's kind of one of the goals of summer, is it shouldn't be the same as what the kids were doing during the school year. Rock Achieve is our middle school program. This is focused on math skills. We're using an AVID summer bridge curriculum for students to get ready for Math 7 and get ready for algebra. So it's a pre-algebra course. We also will be working in concert with rec centers, City Rec. City Rec will be handling enrichment for our students. So all of the sites, if you'll notice, the sites that we've chosen are co-located or right near a City Rec Center. So students can be going to the rec center and getting enrichment there and activities throughout the day. So we're excited about that collaboration and ability to share resources. Rock Discover is our high school for students finishing grades 9 through 11. In the past, this has been an opportunity to recover credits, and that opportunity will still be there. We are increasing the number of initial credits that we're offering for students to take. We have 2 sites, East High School and Edison, and you can see that we're feeding from certain schools into East and other schools into Edison. And we are planning weekly college and career opportunities, so trade schools, local companies coming into the lunchrooms to engage with students, colleges, RCAN to help students with their college applications. So it's exciting to be able to offer those things as well as students earning credits. Freshman University, so this is our St. John Fisher University program. So this year we've made the adjustment based on student feedback. The 11th and 12th graders who were at the program last year identified that they felt they could really see themselves on campus, but many of them said that they wish they had done this sooner. They can see themselves on campus, but now I'm already a senior, I've already got some post-secondary plans, I didn't know that this would be an opportunity for me. So what we've done this year is we're making it a freshman university, 8th graders who are going into 9th grade, 250 of them will be there all day with a schedule that they can earn 1.5 credits. So a full credit class or a half credit elective, but all students will be taking 1.5 credits in this program. We also offer enrichment from the university professors. They work with our teachers, but they also, it's exciting. They want to build relationships with students. So the dean of the College of Nursing, for example, when they're going to do an enrichment week, and at the end of the summer, if we have students who say, that's something that I want to do, we're going to be sharing the contact information of the dean, and the deans have committed to inviting students to activities on campus throughout the school year. So they really want to kind of build relationships with students and get our students interested in the things that are happening at the college. Commencement, so this is something that we're doing a little different for just potential August grads. So we know those students who are close to the finish line and need a little more. We have one site for them to go to. We have weekly tracking and updates on their progress so that we can really focus in on those students who are so close and make sure they cross that finish line in August. Extended school year, I would defer to somebody from special ed to speak more about this, but it's really an opportunity for those students who have this identified on their IEPs to work towards their IEP goals. And we have a summer language academy. Again, I would defer to somebody from the bilingual department to talk more about this program, but it is an opportunity for some project-based learning, opportunities to work on dual language courses and language acquisition. So those are centralized programs. I'm trying to move quickly. We do offer a lot of other programs, including our Rock City Players, which puts on a performance each summer. That's students in grades 4 through 12, about 80 to 100 students that are involved in that. We have Regents Prep, which I spoke about through Sylvan, CTE camps for middle school, sports camp for middle school students. Play Champions is Playworks comes and trains some of our students, and then they go work with elementary school students, so they train some of our high school kids who go to work with elementary students. And we're offering a 2-week phonics, all things phonics camp for our students who in grades 2 through 4, as we've identified that they are those groups are making the least amount of progress since COVID. They were the group that were in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade through the pandemic when we were at home. And so we're really trying to target that group. We do have some of our school programs with their own summers. All City offers opportunities for their students to earn credits. Rochester Early College has a Smart Scholars grant that pays for their summer program. Youth and Justice, we always want to serve those students throughout the summer as well. CBOs are another large part. They serve almost 2,000 of our students each year. One CBO that I do want to call out is Healthy Heroes. Healthy Heroes is a camp at MCC. It's been going for over 2 decades. Each year, they serve 700 or 800 of our RCSD students, and we have never funded them. They have had their own grant. Their grant ran out last year. This year, I'm glad that we were able to fill in the gap year. They have new grant opportunities that begin next year, but this year they were struggling. And because they've served our students with academic and enrichment opportunities, full-day camps for so many years, I'm glad that the RCSD was able to support them this year in their 1 year, their gap year of need. So our vision of success. Each of our programs has specific goals. The goals are always around growth, academic growth, attendance, and engagement. We measure those different ways for the programs. Some are Rock Explorers. They are going to have specific standards that they're focused on, and we have a pre and a post to identify that they are growing in proficiency in those specific standards that we're focused on. And again, acceleration is the mindset, so they will be working on standards for the grade that they're entering, not the grade that they were in. Attendance is our measure every year, and last year we did a pretty expansive survey of students, parents, and teachers, and we're going to continue to do that this year. For high school students, we look at credits attained, attendance, and we look at how many students are attending summer that were off track, that by the end of summer are on track to graduate. So we have some registration opportunities. There are 3,600 students that we've identified for our Rock Explorers program that are currently 1 year below grade level based on their iReady. That's the group that we are sending invites to so that they have priority registration for the summer programs. And that will go through April 15th. They will be getting notification from their teacher, but also in the mail, that they have priority registration for that. We also, on April 15th, will have a registration fair. We will have representatives from all of our centralized programs, CBO partners. We'll have registrars there. Families can come that day, talk with the different programs, identify what's best for their students, and register right there on site. So we're really excited about that. In 9 through 12, our freshman university is going to be an application process. So applications will be going out at the end of the week for 8th graders to apply to the St. John Fisher University program. And our commencement, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, they are registered by their counselors. And so just to kind of wrap up, as far as board support of what you can do to support us is personnel authorizations are going to be coming for our building leaders, our summer building leaders, our summer coaches, our summer registrars. Those are coming soon. And then following that will be our summer teachers, our summer staff. Summer contracts with CBOs. Many of our CBOs fall under an RFP process that we completed last year, but there's some new opportunities that we want to provide for our students, so those contracts will be coming to the board. And then please share information about the registration fair, and we'd love to have you attend. So those are some ways that the board could really support our summer learning.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Hurling. Can you remind us when the summer registration fair is going to be taking place?
Yes, it is April 15th at School 5 from 11 to 3.
That's on a Saturday, right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And there's a great information there. Thank you for the thoughts that have gone into how we can expand our summer programming to make it more universal for our students. I'm actually going to open up for comments, and I want to acknowledge, Ms. Wins, did you say Commissioner Vice President LeBron is on Zoom?
Yes, both Vice President LeBron and Dr. Jallo.
And Dr. Jallo, greetings and good evening. I'm going to start at the Zoom area with questions if there are any. Hearing none.
Not for me.
Hi, how are you? None? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go on, and I see Commissioner Malloy.
Thank you. Yeah, nice presentation. Excited to see all the opportunities available for our students. Really happy to see Healthy Heroes as a continuing partnership. My kids did that year after year, and I absolutely loved it as a parent, the structure. So we have so many great programs for all of our students. I think my main concern is just the attendance piece, and I see some very lofty goals for attendance, and getting 80% attendance for a summer elementary program is pretty lofty. And I know that you said that there are going to be some things that we do to try to make sure that that happens. And can you give me an example of
Sure.
maybe some of the ways that we can intervene?
So one of the things is registering earlier than we have in the past. We're opening the registration up. In the past, it's typically been around May, and that's a little late for families. We were really shooting for much earlier. But each year we're going to get better at this, continuously improve, and we're going to get those offerings out as early as possible. So I think we're a little earlier this year. We have attendance incentives for each of our programs, so they'll be setting goals, and they'll be working with students to promote attendance and promote students who are attending every day. The new text message feature, just talking with Tom here about once our families register, keeping in contact with them so that we can say, hey, it's 3 weeks till summer, get ready, we're excited to have you at this program. And then while program is running, being able to send some of those messages out. And we have our teachers reach out to students. That typically in the past has happened like at the very end of June. We're going to identify those students and teachers earlier so that they can start to build a sort of a relationship with the students that they're going to be teaching in the summer earlier on. So I think if we can start to make those connections, we'll see students attending. I also, I'm a firm believer that engagement is what draws students in. And so as we look at kinesthetic math and creative writing and enrichment with rec centers and things like that we're offering. We want to make sure that, and the expeditions themselves, that's a project-based approach, and I think that will just help with all of our attendance as well.
And then just, thank you for that. And in terms of, I may have missed this in the presentation, so I apologize in advance, but transportation for students, is the transportation that we provide to their homes, or are there common bus stops? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that, we actually met with transportation today, and we're still working out the details. Door-to-door pickup is a little more difficult, but it would never be anything like very far away if we had to do a corner stop. But so that's something that we are still working out.
Okay, but transportation is provided for...
Transportation is provided for
programs.
every program to every student.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think when we were doing the preview meeting, we were talking, I remember when we had mandatory summer school. I had, like, if I was not doing well, I had to get my behind to summer school or I was not going to be promoted. And, you know, when we talk about the reading scores of our babies, of our children, of our scholars, I will refer to them as such. I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, Deputy Strickland
Yes.
has a lot to say about it.
Go, speak, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. I definitely hear you. That's something that I actually began talking to Dan about when I first signed on to this position. Perhaps we're going to start slow, maybe our junior high school students, 7th and 8th grade, to get them to really understand what it means to pass a course. You have to pass a course to earn credit so that they carry on that same mindset when they get to high school. And then together, because this is also a part of board policy, working to figure out how are we going to influence our lower grades so that
I
we
think
have good outcomes.
that work with the grading and retention policy is something that we can look at.
I'm excited to move into that space. Thank you for that. Another question, you talked about or mentioned last year, maybe, I'm going to round it up, 63% of the students attended summer school. And so we have a goal for 80%. Tell me, how many students, when we say 63 or 62.74, whatever that was, percent, how many students are we actually talking to? 62% of how many students? Like,
About 5,000.
about 5,000 students. So, okay, 62% of them came, and that puts things in perspective for me. And then the other thing I wanted to ask, my final question is, like, for example, this is just an example, on slide 10, we have a student capacity, which I love to see that there's goals around how many students we can serve. Of the 1,200, if we were looking at the Rock Discover as an example, is there a goal within that capacity? Like, hey, we may not get all 1,200, but our goal is to get how many of them?
So I looking at the way the shifts that we are making this year academically with Regents exams and no more exemptions, I think that we're going to hit those numbers.
Okay. We got you on record.
Yeah. So that's enrollment, you know, and I'm pretty confident that we'll be serving that number of students this year.
Awesome.
You know, we are doing a lot of outreach, and I think there's going to be a genuine need for some of our 9th through 11th graders to really get some credits this summer.
Awesome. And again, on April 15th, we can come and support.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? President Elliott?
Yeah, just going along the same line around attendance. You know, I know in our summer programs that we've had people projected enrollment, and we did not attain to those numbers, but we still retain the staff. Now, you're saying that we're going to meet or exceed 80%, but I'm hoping if that does not happen, that we're also going to have a corresponding reduction in staff.
Yes, we
Okay.
have a staff reduction policy that we started last summer.
Okay.
And so we had some programs that were not having the attendance that we expected, and so we did reduce the staff in those programs, work together with RTA on how that looks, so that we can make sure, and it is, as the offers go out to staff, it is right in the letter they receive that this is based on attendance. And, you know, what we really want to do is encourage the teachers to get students to come and build those relationships so that they know that we may have to reduce if you don't reach out and connect with your students and encourage them to come every day.
Okay. And then, were there any disciplinary issues last summer? And, you know, how does that, what's the policy around that if there's some disciplinary issues?
Yes, we have it. Last summer, I'm going to say was extremely smooth. Not any serious discipline incidents, nothing that, you know, we had to deal with.
Nobody was suspended from the program?
No,
Okay.
nobody was suspended from the program.
Okay.
We haven't had that. And I'm just trying to rack, but, you know, we had a couple incidents, but we were able to mediate some of those things. And so, yeah, summers usually runs pretty smooth.
So, and just one suggestion, well, you may be doing it, but I don't know, but this seems to me, when we're doing summer school, an opportunity to offer those kinds of non-academic programs as well, such as financial literacy, such as, you know, credit. How do you save money? Also, how do you purchase a house? You know, what is, you know, college readiness and that kind of thing. I don't know if you do that, but I would just offer that. But I think it's an opportune time for us, you know, how do you write a check, or how do you know, just a whole lot of grown-up things that our students, particularly in high schools, need to have to help them to be ready. So I don't know if you do that, but I'll just offer
I can
those
just share,
things.
you know, a couple examples. We do, some of our CBO partners do have that. Encompass, for one, has a program, and they can push into our St. John Fisher and work with some students on that. We also have at our middle school, we're going to be doing a competition called the Amazing Shake, which I hope that when we get there that you can be part of it. It's really teaching students soft skills around interviewing and introducing themselves and being able to work a room, like those kinds of things. So we look forward to all those kinds of opportunities.
All right, thank you. That's it, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell or Commissioner Patterson? Any questions or comments? And I'll go to you, Commissioner Adams. Yes, sir.
St. John Fisher application opens on Friday. How do families access that?
Yeah, so we're actually going to be canvassing all the middle schools and going there. Ms. Thomas and I will be going to speak with all the counselors, the teachers, and hopefully we can get to students too. But we'll be providing all the schools with the information that they need. It'll be an online application that students can do, so we can send that to all 8th graders via email as well. There's many ways that we can access students for that.
Okay, and because I publicly stated this before, I need to state it again, that I'm really concerned about the attendance piece, because in some conversations here at the board, we had talked about increasing resources, and the attendance piece, it hadn't increased. So I just hope we do have a way of utilizing those resources that we're sending there effectively. That's it. And because I've said this time and time again here at this board, that I just wanted to repeat that. Because there was somebody who was advocating for more resources. She's not here anymore, but I don't know.
You know, I share that concern. You know, I want, we work hard to provide targeted opportunities for students to gain enrichment, academic, and you know, get better fun things for them to do in the summer. So I want nothing more than 100% attendance. And so we will do all the strategies that we can to get that to happen, for sure.
I do want to address this, right? Because I think what Commissioner Simmons said with some of the retention policies, right, and grading and retention policies, is that you don't want it to be all punitive as to why you have to go, but there's also an understanding that if you attend summer school 2 days, you're taking a seat from someone that may want to go there all the time, right? And so we have to have some sort of metric there to say that if you're not attending, we want to give a seat to someone that's attending. And that creates some, because We do have some kids, some families that'll use it for a couple of days a week, right? Not full-time programming. And really want to make sure that we're maximizing our attendance as much as we can. And we adding a little bit of some attendance metrics to requirements, to getting in, to iReady. So we're starting to build that up. But that's also a little bit of philosophical of how we approach our summer learning.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do have a comment also.
Please.
So I don't want you to think that I wasn't listening to you, so I wasn't going to say anything, because in law enforcement, where I understand, it's like ask and answered. So, my colleagues have already posed the questions that I would have, so I'm not going to be redundant or repetitive. But what I do want to say is something positive that often, we don't say. It's always picking the individual part that's given a presentation. So I always like to say something positive, and I like the college support, what you're doing and working with St. John Fisher and things like that. And your presentation, it was a good presentation, so thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. College and career readiness, that's the goal. So we want to keep that in mind in all the programs we're running.
Well, thank you so much for your comprehensive presentation and information that you provided this evening, and we look forward to seeing what happens this summer.
Yeah, I can't wait to be back here with great attendance.
And you got us on record too, so lean in. I don't know, I think I'm doing a workshop on the 15th, but lean into us so that we can try to be there, and we will try to advocate as far as getting the information out as well. So just shoot us the information. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Okay, looks like we are going to move on, and we are going to move into student placement, an overview around that at this time. And this is from the Office of Student Equity and Placement. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Good evening, President Elliott, Board Commissioners, Superintendent. I am going to jump right into the presentation this evening. So here's a quick overview of what we are going to cover.
Can you provide your name just for the record? And I failed to say your name. Go ahead and
That's
introduce
okay.
yourself.
My name is Terry Orden, Executive Director of Accountability and Student Registration. So the role of student equity and placement, we are the welcome center for all of our families and community members that walk into central office. We are right there on the first floor. Our goal is to welcome and support families entering or returning to the district through the registration process. We provide assistance with the registration enrollment process. We have moved to online. However, our student service representatives provide support for any families that may need it. And of course, we always have a paper, copy if we have to do registration by paper. We facilitate the implementation of the managed choice policy, and we ensure that we place scholars into schools and programs that they like, that they desire, that they rank in one of their top choices as much as we possibly can. And we also ensure that they're placed appropriately into programs that meet their needs. So specifically to our diverse learners, for special education, and for our English language learners. The Office of Student Equity and Placement also facilitates the transfer process. So we went into depth on the registration process back in June. So just to highlight this, all scholars complete the online registration packet or registration application and rank up to 4 schools. Scholars in grades K to 6 do have that added choice of a citywide school, so they can rank up to 5 schools. All students start at the same place. And then whether you're general education, there's a pathway for you. English language learners, there's a pathway for those students because they do have additional testing. And then for scholars with disabilities, there's a pathway for them as our Office of Special Education manages that student placement process for our students with disabilities. One of the highlights at this point in time, the Office of Student Equity and Placement did experience many vacancies over this past year. So I wouldn't even say bare bones at some point. We didn't have the bones of the skeleton as we were working through. So we have filled all but one of those right up until April. So at one point we were literally down 8 FTEs, 7 FTEs through the collaboration with Human Capital. We have been able to fill those full-time employee positions, and we are down to just having 1 vacancy. So we have had those positions be filled in February, March, and we do have one starting in April. So we will continue to onboard all of our employees as we have been lucky enough to finally recruit and hire. So moving to L programming, the Department of Bilingual Education and World Languages identifies the continuum of programming for our English language learners. The Office of Student Equity and Placement facilitates that placement for our scholars into these programs within the different schools. There is bilingual programming, and then English as a new language programming are the options for our English language learners. Bilingual programming is the umbrella. We have both transitional bilingual programs, and we have one-way and two-way dual language programs throughout our district and our zones. This is the data piece of how many L's, English language learners, are in each of our bilingual schools. Pause for a moment here. And then English as a new language is offered in every school across the district. We have our Learning English Through Academic Program, or LEAP, at John Williams School number 5, the Children's School of Rochester, School number 15, and then Helen Barrett Montgomery School 50. And the only newcomer program in the district is the Rochester International Academy that serves our K-12 students. For the top for those 3 LEAP schools, here are the percentages of L's there. Shifting to our Scholars with Disability programming, again, the Office of Student Equity and Placement, the Office of Special Education determines the locations of all special ed programs, special education programs. The Office of Student Equity and Placement supports parents and guardians and scholars through this registration process. And then there is an Associate Director of Special Education that sits in placement. So once a scholar is identified as a scholar with disability, they transition to that Associate Director for placement. Again, our office oversees the transfer process set forth by the district's transfer team. So safety, medical, and hardship transfers are initiated at the school level to ensure that all supports and interventions have been taken prior to requesting a transfer. Transfers are discussed weekly, and decisions are sent to both families and schools. So there is a weekly district transfer meeting made up of a cross-disciplinary team, Office of Parent Engagement, Safety Security, student attendance, and the school chiefs all sit on that team. Voluntary transfer times are open from May 1st to July 1st, and then those are processed over the summer. A general overview of the school of choice process. Our applications run from December through February for students entering kindergarten, 7th grade, and 9th grade. If a scholar is not placed in their first choice school, they are placed on a waiting list through October. Kindergartners get placed on a waiting list for both their first choice school and the citywide if they didn't get into each of those. And then any 7th or 9th grade scholars who do not participate in our school of choice process, they're placed in a school closest to their home that meets their needs. So again, in making sure our diverse learners are placed at a school that has their English language learner needs or a student with disabilities, their programmatic needs trump if it's not right next to their home. So they won't necessarily always get the school closest to their house if they have diverse needs. So there are priorities in the school of choice process. There is a preference in the system that's given to scholars with siblings that attend their first choice school, or for our schools that have compacts. Going to kindergarten, we do an immediate placement is given to scholars whose siblings are within the zone and attend their first choice school. So again, an effort to keep all of our families together. Preference is given to scholars who live in the catchment area of their first choice school. And in alignment with our managed choice policy, we don't exceed that 60%, so that's where they're given a priority, and it's not necessarily an immediate placement. We have to review how many of the students live in the area and ensure that we don't exceed that 60% in alignment with managed choice. Pending any updates to the managed choice policy, we are trying to work in that preference to give scholars that are currently in pre-K, if they choose a school that is their first choice and within their zone, that they would then get that preference so that they have the continuity of schooling and they can stay in their school as much as possible. Our school of choice, so the campaign, I would be remiss if I didn't give accolades to our communications department. I'm sure that you saw the billboards, the commercials, the digital magazine, all of those pieces that went into increasing our 2023 participation. We do this specifically around 7th and 9th grade. Of course, we include kindergarten, but just for tracking purposes, we focus on 6-7s and 8-9s. We had weekly communication that occurred with our principals. So a representative from the Office of Student Equity and Placement emailed any students that had not yet participated on a weekly basis starting in January. We collaborated with the Department of Student Support Services, so the director and all counselors in the building were also shared this communication, so that there could be an additional person providing that outreach to our families to provide assistance in the school of choice process and answer any questions that may arise. And then we had monthly communication with the school chiefs just to keep them in the loop on where each school was throughout the process. So from 22 to 23, our 7th grade increased from 40% to 68%. And then for 9th grade, it increased from 49% to 73%. This doesn't include roll-ups. So like East 8th graders that stayed at 8-9, that is not in here. Same thing with School of the Arts. That does not include any roll-ups. So improving methods to receive student feedback. We did implement the survey back in September. We have only received 12 responses on the survey currently that you receive via parents receive via email for any of the online registration, but there's also a QR code down in the placement office. We just have recognized that this is not the way that we're getting the feedback that we need. So we're implementing some new approaches to increase feedback. So cold calls, right? Reaching out with, now that we have staff in the Office of Student Equity and Placement, and calling parents and families to find out how their experience was throughout the registration process. We will send emails directly because when they register online, they provide an email. So now we have direct communication where we can provide an email and have follow-up questions because they may not have selected the link that they received after completing their registration. And then exploring the use of text messaging. So even if there's a survey that we can send out via text messaging so that we can get some feedback and answers. And I will say of the 12 that did come in, 11 of them were positive, but none of them out of the 12 filled in a short response. So we don't really know what we were doing well, we just know they agreed with the process. Their student service representative was helpful, and the resources we provided were helpful. But we would just like, to get specifics if possible on what really families are utilizing. Now that we too are almost 100% staffed, we need to really build in some professional development, and we'll do this, in June and throughout the summer when we have hopefully some part of our time that we're not so busy. But customer service, professional development around equity and access, so how we approach families, how we sit down with families, how we can explain to them, here are your options in your zone, here are what citywides offer you. If you have questions around specific programs, how we would provide those answers. So I'm just thinking, at the last presentation, President Elliott, that you said that some staff would gear parents one way or the other. We have to ensure that we don't do that. So if you are a Northwest Zone student, here are your options. If you're a middle school student, here's your options, high school. So we just want to make an effort to ensure that all the answers are the same, whether you go to person, anyone in Student Equity and Placement. The Language Assessment and Placement Center, we have to do ongoing training. So every English language learner goes through that process. That's where we administer the NICETEL. So that we've already started with any of our new hires so that they understand what that process is and how to triage any of our English language learner families. We'll also provide professional development around McKinney-Vento eligibility, and then what the regulations are and how students have to be placed as soon as possible and within that 3 days. And then managed choice policy. So just what our policy is now, and if there are any updates to it, of course we would provide the professional development around that. So all of our staff understand what the managed choice policy is and how the registration and placement processes work. And I open for questions.
Awesome, thank you very much. I'm going to start on the screen and work to you, Commissioner Adams. I'm going to start with Dr. Jallo or Vice President LeBron. Do either of you have a question or comment?
Actually, I do have a question. Out of the children who participated in the process, how many of them got their first choice?
So for 7th grade, 42% received their first choice, and for 9th grade, it was 62%. And this is, again, for last year. We have not ran the lottery yet for this year. So for fall of '23. Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that?
Yes.
How many of, you said 42% got their first choice?
Of 7th graders and 62% of 9th graders.
Going into 7th?
Yes.
And how much of that, of the failure to get first choice was because they chose overchosen schools, like School of the Arts or?
I don't have that data. I will go back and get that for you.
Okay, and so at this time, was that all you had, Dr. Jallo?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the math. So out of the 62% that participated, only 42% of those children got their first choice.
So out of all of the students in grade 6, go 7, that participated in the school of choice, 42% received their first choice. And then out of the 9th grade students, all of the 9th grade students, 8, go 9 that participated, 62% received their first choice. So we were able to, the 8, go 9 students received their first choice at a higher rate than the 6, go 7 students. And that doesn't include roll-ups. So again, if at a K-8 building where there were 6th graders that stayed in 7th grade, that doesn't include those students that stayed. It only continued.
So, okay.
Good?
What I was going to say is the roll-ups.
Yes.
If I'm in a school and I don't want to roll up, I want to go somewhere else, what happens to me?
So that's where you opt into the student of choice or the school of choice process, and then you make your school selections. Because once, if you're school 19, for example, if you are a 6th grader, that school is a K-8 building. Once you enter into the lottery, you open up a seat at 19 for another student to enter. So then you get one of your top 4 choices that you chose.
Otherwise, I'm automatically rolled up.
That's not correct. Once you opt into the
If-
lottery,
If she's saying if the student does not participate, they're
Right,
automatic.
I automatically get rolled up.
Correct.
Right? So if I'm not participating and I automatically get rolled up, could that possibly be one of the reasons why so few people got their first choice?
at 7th grade, yes. Because our,
Say
right,
Say it again?
Say that again, Dr. Jallo.
Ugh, okay. Let me see if I can get it again. So for the kids that are in schools that have these automatic roll-ups, when they don't participate, unlike other kids who don't participate, they automatically roll up. And because they automatically roll up, that creates fewer seats
Yes.
for children that participated in the lottery.
correct.
So what is that?
That's why only 42%, that might be why only 42% of the 62% got their first choice.
But, yeah, but I mean, how do you work on that? Because if there are fewer seats.
Well, I'm
those-
just asking a question.
Oh, no, I'm just trying to understand, Dr. Jallo. I'm just trying to get it here.
Sure,
So,
sure.
yes, okay, that's what I was trying
So
to
there's
understand.
I'm not raising a concern, I'm just thinking about the policy around automatic roll-ups. Because automatic roll-ups means seats taken out of the lottery.
Yes, essentially.
Now, can
Yes.
can I follow up too?
I'm gonna let you follow up, and y'all gonna have to give me this meeting back.
Okay.
President, go ahead.
Because we're trying to understand, this, and so, but, I mean, is that an issue if students who were in a particular school automatically go to the next grade? I mean, is that an issue? Or are we saying that all the students should start over again in the placement process?
For now, in this moment in time, I think that's a better question for the principals of upper schools, like a Monroe Upper or East Upper, about having these automatic roll-ups versus having the opportunity to have children come into their school who really want to come into their school and not necessarily come in because they rolled up. So I think that's a question better posed to principals of upper school models.
Yes.
Like your Monroes, and now I'm drawing a blank of which schools, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. I think that's a question better for them around that.
Yes.
Because I would have thought that that's a good thing, you know, because there's continuity
Okay.
in the schools, but, all right,
Commissioner Adams.
Yes.
yeah. I'm
You
trying
had
to get
said,
it, yeah.
you had said that you had only gotten 12 responses back. I'm thinking you're meaning via email. But what about the phone calls that was made? We didn't get any response
So
from the
we're
phone
gonna,
call?
so we just initiated the survey response. We haven't started the phone calls, just reviewing the data in preparation for this meeting. We know that it's not working, so now we're gonna pivot to some different methods so we can actually garner some great feedback
Okay,
to inform further practice.
Commissioner Malloy.
Thank you so much for your presentation and really appreciate some of the changes that I'm seeing. But also I think I'll have more comments to make or questions when we look at school reconfigurations, because I think that all of this is subject to change once we have those very important conversations. But thank you for the work that you're doing and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, I think that is very true. In regards to filling or the fact the staff positions are filled, I know that's like, whoo, nobody likes to have to fill positions, and that's a conversation I'll be having about some other pieces soon. But in regards to your particular office, what are we doing to retain the staff that we now have acquired?
So honestly, our staff that works in the Office of Student Equity and Placement, they do enjoy it. Like, it is a different kind of, or let me say, a specific skill set in order to greet and work with families every single day. But you know that when you're coming in and you're signing up and you're applying for the job. Those that left us, one moved out of state, one did make one lateral change. The rest were all for promotions within our district.
Good.
So it's not that they left because they weren't happy. There were just other opportunities that arose.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
Thank you. The other piece, you know, is around kind of the discussion, not so much the roll-up, and I think we touched on it during the preview meeting, that we recognize that there are schools within our district that have a strong concentration of different students in certain areas, or even, you know, again, I often use Edison Tech as one of my examples with it, where there were students, we know the school's designed for CTE opportunities, and there's a plethora of students that are attending the school that are not there or interested in that, but they ended up being placed in Edison based on maybe they didn't participate. So, once you're not participating in this process, now you're going to what's available. And so just making sure families understand how that works and what's happening. And recognizing also, I think you put it in the presentation, that if you have a special need, that this now goes through the Office of Special Education, which we would need to follow up with to find out why certain students are concentrated in schools such as Franklin,
Yes.
and why we're not getting an equitable distribution of students across the board. But again, I'm so excited, and I'm happy to see some of the changes and tweaks that you've made, and I'd love to hear what the feedback is once you implement those feedback loops.
And even just to chime in on this, the whole school of choice we've kind of revamped too, and this started last year, where really getting principals and schools involved in the school of choice process. So yes to Edison, but last year they ended up with a wait list getting into ninth grade because they really went out to those eighth grade classes and
Recruited.
sold the experience,
Yeah.
you know, recruited, but really let them know what Edison has to offer.
Yeah.
So it garnered a lot of, they wanted that school.
Yeah, they've been changing the culture over there, and I want to see that happen across our schools, and thank you for that very much. President Elliott, I know you have some more questions.
Yes, ma'am, I do. So thank you, but you know, how long have you been in the position?
2 years.
Okay, so you know historically placement has been a mess.
Yes.
It's just been horrible. And so I won't get into that, but there just seems to be, even with the conversation that we had with Principal Muhammad around, you know, him getting all of these other people that, and it really was, for him, it was associated with, you know, he's got, you know, this data that he's trying to maintain, and, you know, the impact that has on, his accountability numbers. And so there seems to be a lot of different variables that has to be considered if we're going to make this work. And that's what I'm hoping, and I'll, look at the superintendent. That's what we, what are all the variables that really could be considered as we, make sure that we have an effective placement department, For example, and I hope we're not doing this, we used to send one student at one school and the other child who was a sibling had to go to another school. Hoping we're not doing that anymore. That was crazy, right? And so if we're going to be, and if we want to, make sure we're recruiting students, and we know that everybody's not going to get their choice. Yes. We recognize that, but there's got to be a way in which we're able to communicate that and offer, whatever the school has to be, although we talk about school choice, those opportunities that are in that program. And so I would just leave it at that. There's a lot of work that we've got done, and I would love for, the superintendent and you all to take into consideration all those variables, those that will affect our families and those that will affect the school buildings, and come up with a protocols that are going to be acceptable to all. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I think I see Superintendent has a response that he'd like to share.
So I think I akin this to what I said about contracts the other day. Sometimes legal gets blamed for contracts being slow when it's their process. Placement gets blamed for the structures that we've created that have created inequities in schools, right? And that's where we have to address equity in schools, that there's not high concentrations of special ed, high concentrations of where there's placement. That has to happen across our districts where we're not having some haves and have-nots. And until we do that, right, then placement is going to be considered the blocker or indicator of that, right? And that has to be addressed first.
So, but I will say,
Go ahead, President Elliott, please.
Thank you for the work that you're doing. I know I can be hard, but we got to get it right, and I thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Commissioner.
Our directors in student equity and placement, really are the ones boots on the ground facilitating this work. So I want to definitely give shout outs to Ina De Jesus Lopez and Michelle Osgood.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I do see Commissioner Powell's light on, and I'm going to loop back around.
So I just want to call folks' attention to the fact that a lot of placement issues are tied in with the parent preference managed choice policy, 5153. The administration has just finished reviewing its recommendations and will be bringing it to policy committee in April. So a lot of this conversation can extend into next month's meeting as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for that information. Commissioner Malloy, and then I'll go to you, Dr. Jallo, after this.
Thank you. I know one of our district goals is increasing equity between our schools. And I know this isn't so much a comment for you, but so much of your work is obviously dependent upon reconfigurations, et cetera. But when placement is affected, we have fewer options for our students when we have some of our schools that bear the brunt or burden of, for instance, our CTE programming. All kids should have access to that CTE programming. And if it's only offered at Edison, it's not an equitable situation. And we have schools in our district that offer some of that programming, but it's not equitably distributed across our district. And so I would like to see East High School taking 300 to 400 more students. That helps in terms of equity, and I think it would give our students more options with placement if we see that type of work. So thank you.
Yeah, and I love that CTE is looking to expand their blueprint across the district. Before we go, because I know you're ready, Dr. Jallo.
Yeah, so really my question or my comment is really also about equity. And I know we're talking a lot about placement, but I want to shift a little bit and talk about transfers. And at some point, I would be interested in hearing details about practices, protocols, and policies around transfers, especially as to how those transfers of students impact your receivership schools and impact your high schools in particular, because that's an issue. And it's an equity issue, it's a school designation issue, and many other things probably left for a different place and time. But I would really be interested in understanding the office and how their practice around transferring of students, especially throughout the year. And there are a myriad of situations that are occurring with that practice and with that action. So I would be interested in learning and hearing more about that, and with a concentration on receivership schools.
Thank you. Were there any other questions? I see you, yes.
I just want to respond. Yes, Dr. Jallo, I think, our transfer process is veered away from the original purpose of it, and we really need to reground ourselves again in what we do in terms of transfer. We want to support kids in the buildings that they're in to provide them with the resources they have, with our resources that we have. And in today's day and age, when kids transfer, issues travel with them. It's not like we're, social media, all of those things, and we're not helping resolve the situations. We need to work and support our families and our kids so that we could truly resolve it versus transferring from one place to another.
Commissioner Patterson, I see your light.
Yes, so once again, some of my colleagues and the superintendent have mentioned some of the things that I would have, and Dr. Jallo. So again, I'm going to just stick with positive, and I appreciate your transparency and your presentation. So thank you.
And
President Elliott.
yeah, and this is final. So when do we anticipate having a high-performing placement office?
I mean, I'd love to say tomorrow. Honestly, this summer when we can provide all of the training that we need to for all of our new hires. So we just need to have that time to really provide that professional development, work with Deputy Turner on how we want to reimagine and make any shifts that we may or may not want to make. But definitely by this summer, now that we're fully staffed, we can start.
That's not ambitious. I wasn't thinking about for the summer,
I'm gonna be ambitious.
Yeah. You
sooner
can
the
be
better.
real with me.
Right.
I'm not one that you can't be, just tell it like it is.
Well, and listen, I want to be ambitious because it's been too long. I mean,
Yeah.
to the point you're like, it's been bad. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't know how far I have to go before it's really good, and then we'll only get better, so
Right.
we can catapult. But as long as we make those strides to be where we need to be, and we have more positive feedback than any negative feedback or stories, like I want placement or families coming to you all with, here's what happened, and here's how great it was, and here's what student reps were able to do for us, as opposed to the negative. So
Yeah.
I will take that win come the summer.
Thank you.
Can I just add a little caveat to that? Although there's an urgency and we're starting to work now, we're going to go through coaching for equity. We're going to do a lot of work with our placement folks. It takes time to change practice, to have levels of accountability. So we're starting immediately, but we recognize that it's going to take us 6 months to a year to really embed those practices so that it's seamless and it happens every single day with every kid, every family.
Yes, we recognize change is incremental, and we appreciate all the hard work that's going to go in. We thank you for standing up here today. You ready to go? Do you need some water?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your presentation this evening. And I think, let me just take a look at the agenda here. I don't see anything further on the agenda for the equity and student achievement portion. So what I will ask, am I entertaining a motion to adjourn this meeting? But before we do that, well, we have to take the survey first? Okay. So I'm going to ask you all to take the board survey, and then I'm going to make entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting for the evening, which I'm doing now.
What is this on the floor in front of us?
Oh, yeah, I didn't want to, thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Malloy. I cannot end this meeting without acknowledging this. Could we get a camera on that? Like, what is this on the floor? It looks fun.
So that's what, sorry. When Dan Hurley was up here talking about some of the math and movement engagement stuff for summer school. These are some of the activities that they would be engaging students in.
I am actually ready to engage.
Yes.
So that is good. Okay, thank you very much. Again, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting for this evening.
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, don't forget the survey. Thank you so much. That ends the Equity and Student Achievement Committee meeting.
We will go right into the special meeting to convene for consideration of resolutions. Let me just start off first, but I think we had a birthday today that nobody invited me to. Lashar Evans, happy birthday. I didn't get an invite, none of that. Yeah, so happy birthday to you and many more, the happiest of birthdays. Let me just also turn it over to our board clerk with regard to the announcement of there have been some changes to the budget schedule. And if you can announce those, please. I know you gave it to me, but you do such a good job.
Thank you, President Elliott. So Commissioners, there are several updates to the 2023-24 budget calendar. They are highlighted additions, and so we have adjusted the round one questions so that they will be due on 3/31 to the administration, who will have until April 10th to respond. On page 2 of the document, you will see that the sections of the budget book being reviewed have been outlined in collaboration with the administration. Those topics have been chosen, and so the board would need to take a motion to approve this updated calendar.
So we need a motion?
Yeah. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments regarding the budget date changes? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So we're going to go to the resolutions now. We've got one that's going to be pulled, which means that I can't do them all together, correctly? I have to do them individually.
Can I ask us to back up, Madam Chair, to the calendar? Oh, I'm sorry, I see it there. I was having trouble parsing the highlighted portion to finding a date, and now I see it's there. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay. So in consideration of resolutions, can I get a motion? Is there a motion for Resolution 558?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 558? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion for Resolution 559?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 559?
Yes.
Commissioner Malloy?
Is there a way that we can find out when we have emergency conditional hires, are these certified personnel that we're hiring? Is that a question that I'm allowed to ask publicly?
But by the nature of this resolution, these individuals are not certified.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Is there a motion for Resolution 560?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 560? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Is there a motion for Resolution 561?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 561? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion for Resolution 562?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 562? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a resolution for 563?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 563? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion for Resolution 564?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 564? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion for Resolution 565?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 565? Commissioner Malloy?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, there are quite a few resignations here, and my concern is, do we have people replacing those who are resigning so that those positions are filled for our students?
I can certainly give you a report on each of these. I don't know the status of each of them at this moment in time. Some are future dated, so they haven't yet occurred, but certainly we're recruiting and working to fill all positions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons?
Yes, I was just, maybe this is off. I don't know. Maybe this needs to go into the question log or something, because I'm looking at, like, again, the resignations, to Commissioner Malloy's point, and then wondering about our short staffing or what have you, and then wondering, like, you know, teachers that may be out. And I'm wondering a lot of different things, right? But I'm wondering how many teachers are out on, like, suspensions and things of that nature? You know, does that impact how these spaces are being filled on some level?
So I think those are two different aspects, right? These are resignations that we're going to need to fill, look, seek, or, you know, in some cases, determine if there's a need for, right? You know, and then what is out on administrative leave? I think that's a conversation we could talk about in the executive session about, you know, or some closed session about with the information from that.
Yeah, because I don't want to know about anyone specifically, but just generally, like, how many are out and coming back, and how does that
And I can
impact
provide that information to the
That would be very helpful. Thank you so much.
And just to go along with what Commissioner Simmons says, you know, there's this trend out there just around the nation of people resigning. But, you know, as we had a conversation earlier today, Superintendent, you know, I don't want it to be because people are so stressed out that people are really, that it being a hostile work environment. That's what I don't want to have happen, and people are leaving. And so if we can look at doing some training so that people are not going to leave, you know, because as I understand, with a lot of the people that I'm referring to, they don't necessarily have to do that work. You know, they are retired, and, you know, so they're doing it, you know, just because it's something they want to do. So, you know, that's what I'm hoping too. So, Dr. Peluso, if we could look at, you know, those people who may be resigning because they're just working in a hostile work environment. So,
Absolutely.
all right, thank you. Commissioner Powell?
To follow up on the question a bit, on the answer given by Mr. Miller, that some of these are future dated, others of these go back to 2022. Is it safe to assume that those are conversions from, like, leave of absence to resignation? There's a November 2022 and an August 2022. Are those a conversion from a leave of absence?
So in the executive content, there is a explanation of each of the resignations. Without personally identifying anything,
that's fine,
right,
I see
you can
it.
see some explanations
That's
there.
fine, thank you.
Any other comments or questions regarding Resolution 565? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
President Elliott, the administration would like to pull Resolution 566.
Thank
Withdraw
you.
566.
Thank you. Is there a motion for Resolution 567?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 567? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion for Resolution 568?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 568? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion for Resolution 569?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Commissioner Malloy, seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 569? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion for Resolution 570?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 570? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the next item on the agenda is the budget calendar, but we've already talked about that and we've already approved that. And so if there's no executive session. And so I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Did you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
No survey
No,
on
no,
this
no, no.
one, huh?
No, is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? Meeting adjourned.
Or all in favor?
Wrong question.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Good night, everybody.